Hi, I'm Michael Matthews, and I wanted to put together a primer on creating characters for the Fantasy Tavern adventure or campaign that we'll be doing using Smallville. So, to begin with, one of the things you have to do with Smallville is create a relationship map. And we're going to do that with a website called Kumu. All of it's free. If you sign up for it and give me your username, I can add you to this project so you're able to make any alterations and changes. I'm going to show you real quick another one that I started on this with for my Monday Night Legends of the Wulin game. You will see kind of all the complexity that it can kind of bring to it. Now this one, everything kind of like jumps into place. I don't have things set, so everything is a little bit different every time you open it as far as where it is on the screen, but everything's still connected. So here, let me zoom in. Like for example, we've got like some of the, let's zoom out some more. So we've got a whole bunch of the characters, all the different things that have been created through our time. The PCs are like here, here, and here. And then we've got ones that are connected specifically to them, stuff like this. Now, the relationship map we're going to make is not going to look quite like this. It's going to have more information on it. Two, it's going to be kind of stuck in place, which is nice. And three, there's going to be all these other connections that start happening between all of the outer edges. But in the middle is going to be all the player characters. So the squares here are the player characters, and I'll explain how those work in a moment. So on Google Drive, on our thing, you've got a character keeper I put up there, and like at the bottom you'll notice everybody's names, and I've got a master one which I'll be using to explain how this part works. And this is your character sheet to start off with. You'll be able to use that, fill that in, and that'll be something you can actually reference during the game itself. There is also a copy of a Pathways cheat sheet. This will be useful. If you look on page 20 of Smallville, you'll actually see a good amount of this information on there and put in a way that's actually fairly easy to understand. That's the thing, if I'm running it with people, I usually open up to that page, though this thing is super useful. So, to begin with, the way it works is these are the characters. I'm going to use Orange here, for example. Now, if you have a picture that you want to use, you can do this and go, oh, I'm going to select a file, and I'll go ahead and use Lone Sparrow, his character from Legends of the Wulin. So now that character is, so we got a picture there, we can see, okay, that's his character. You could change the name by just clicking here and changing to whatever you want for that. When you're creating the pathways, what you end up doing is creating, it's supposed to be circles and triangles, but we can't do triangles in Kumu, so they'll just be circles, but basically a circle is a NPC and a triangle is a location. We'll know pretty easily what's what. The bar itself will be one that I'm sure the person, whoever's the owner, will make. Other people will tie into it because you actually get to use those during the game. So with Oren, for example, if he had decided to begin on the Pathways chart, so the first thing you do, we draw the squares. Those have already been done. Then you get to draw an arrow to a new extra, which is a new person, an NPC essentially. So the nice thing is, all you have to do on Kumu is hit Element, and we're going to create his father. We're going to call it Buck Dadley. Buck Dadley is Oren's father. And then just connection, hit C to do a connection. I can just put in Oren, and this connection will appear between them. Now, this is their father-son, but that doesn't really do a lot to tell us about the character themselves. We need to know a lot more about what's going on other than just this is the son, because some people get along great with their father. Some people have a very complicated relationship with the father. So what if they decide here? So with all of these, you're going to have an explanation for what this relationship is like. The nice thing is, if you go up to add description, let us say, we'll say father-son to begin with, type that in, and then, how about this? Father is trying to get the approval of his son. Let's flip the normal thing and say this is a dad who wants his son to approve of him. Let me copy that. Wrong spot for that. So on this one, you can always check fellow PC. It should appear there. So my thing is, why is that not appearing? Give me half a second. Let me pause this and. All right, I double checked, and here's the thing. It actually makes a super lot of sense. So I'm going to put here, you change the name of the connection. Because right now it's just Buck Dadley to Oren. But if I change that and then put that in, you now have that relationship appearing there with them. So if we put a picture here, we could put a picture in there. So that's what Buck Dadley looks like. We now know the father's trying to get the approval of his son. This becomes an extra. He is right now not like a major character, so you go to your character keeper, and you put here, under name, sort of, Buck Dadley. I'll give a thing that shows whatever the thing starts at, but extras start at 2d4, and there's a few things that we'll kind of go through later on for what you do for the information that the extras and such need. But you would just go, you would put that there, and now I've got that relationship taken care of. And then everyone else puts theirs. Then, once everyone's done theirs, with the second one, well, first, I would connect my square to a new location. And so I would do the same thing. I just pop in here, I would put a location, so I'll put element. This is after you've done some of the stat stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. So when you do the next one, you put element, let's say Dadley's house, which was an important place for Oren. I connect it to Oren, click on that line there, and I might say house where the murder happened. There was a murder that happened in that house that we'll figure out later on why it's important. At this point, it might just be, oh, here's a thing that someone else might go, cool, we can hook into that and talk to each other about this while we're doing it. And you come here and go, Dadley's house starts off at 2d4, and then there'll be some stuff later on that we'll kind of look at. So this is how you actually put things into it. You'll notice then you can take your circle or diamond, like one of those two things, I get to then connect to any circle or diamond. So you're basically connecting your NPCs or location to someone else's NPCs or location. So then you start to get these connections that head back and forth, which is amazing. And as you keep going, it'll basically do the same sort of thing, like any circle or diamond to any other circle, diamond, or person. So you can start to connect NPCs or locations to each other, even if they're not connected to you, or you can create a new or existing one that you can connect with. But then you go through and you decide what you want to do. Like each of these has got, like for origin, for example, you can choose rich, ordinary, gifted, strange, or alien metahuman. In this case, it would probably be like a different race or species. So if we want to do stuff with that, remember magic powers and stuff should be relatively minor because this is mostly it's mostly sort of an office comedy slash drama. So in each of these, what you do, so let's say someone who starts off a bit strange. So all your values start off at D4, then that lets you take the value of glory or power, and I'll put a conversion for what this is for our game, gets to go up by 2. So one of those, because it's the or, you raise by 2, so that's a thing that's going to be more important to your character. I get to add a new distinction, and so I might kind of come over here and go, okay, I'm going to take, what were the two? Glory or power. So glory is attention. I want this to be someone who wants a lot of attention. It goes from D4, D6, D8. D12 is the highest you can get. This is someone who likes to be the center of attention, who likes all that stuff. It gets a new distinction. And how about I put... I'll just create a distinction for him, which is going to be... if you've played Fate, it's essentially... the same thing as, I forget what they're called specifically in Fate, but they are the things that help define your character. So I might say, I'm going to give a criminal upbringing. So he was sort of brought up as a criminal. That one will begin because it is a thing at D4. So I start that right now at D4, and I'll be able to decide a little bit later on any sort of triggers and special effects. Those are some things that we'll discuss. Then I get to get on. It's like I chose was strange. Then I get to up an extra or location. I'm like, cool. Let's actually make. I'm more interested in the father. Let's raise him up a die, so he gets 2d4. He's now 2d6. And then I can come over here and go, okay, I can raise anything except for a value. Well, I don't have a whole lot so far. Let's make my criminal upbringing a little more interesting. Let's make that a d6 as that starts to raise up. And at that point, I have now done my first one of these. Then, once you're finished, I can go from Strange to Geek, Outsider, or Paragon. And for the most part, we're making like abilities and such, which are kind of like powers, a little less than something. If you got questions on heritages, which are mostly if you come from something really weird. If you're a dwarf, you'd have like dwarven heritage, and that's more about the things that you know about your people and your connection to them. So let's say I might end up going like to Outsider later, and we'll all do the same ones of these. Then once I'm done with that, I can either get a new distinction, or I can up a distinction or a heritage. I can up a location, and then I can up anything else except a value. And as these go on, as we do each of the steps, your character gets more and more defined. One of the things that I've always found with Smallville is if you come in with just a basic idea of what you're thinking and allow all of these different connections to occur between the various characters, you are going to find a whole lot of things that you hadn't thought of. You're going to be open to a lot of ideas. If you come in like, I've already written my character sheet and this is exactly what I want, there is a tendency for you to be creating something for a game the rest of the people are not involved in. So having some basic ideas is great. Be open to them kind of altering and changing, because that process of discovery helps create the world, the game, and everything else that's going to happen in it. So that's just a real quick overview of the basics. Like, this stuff will go here, and if you've got any questions, please let me know on the Discord. We'll see about getting together relatively soon, and we might be able to start doing some of this on like through the Discord and online without having to have everyone together at first, because the first step can basically be done in any order. After that, you kind of want to have one at a time, because you don't know who you're necessarily going to start connecting stuff to. So thank you very much, and I'm very much looking forward to it.